There it is.
Okay, hello. Welcome to the Mark Outward Show, Adventures in the Meat Suit. Today I'm joined by David Gregory. Hello, David.
Hello, hello.
Some of you may have seen David on the Charlie Ward Show yesterday, I think. We're going to focus on the subject of indoctrination,
Yes.
because I think we had a little chat last week because I mentioned brainwashing in my interview with Charlie Ward, and I think you picked up on that, and we had a little chat about it. And I think it's a really interesting subject to go into, especially this week has been very interesting. With people seem to be quite frazzled at the moment, and there's excuse me, there's a phrase I use that when people are nervous or full of fear and stuff, they cling to the side of the swimming pool, and that's my analogy for old long-term indoctrinated beliefs.
Yeah. Whether it's from an outside source, whether it's school clubs, etc., or whether it's through your own belief system that you've grown through your life. Like I said in Charlie Ward, you can indoctrinate yourself. So if you start believing in one narrative and you just follow that, you've indoctrinated yourself. You haven't left your mind wide open for other avenues to explore. And your RAF background will kind of testify to that, because that's one form of indoctrination, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but I was thinking about this. The RAF was one thing, and that was interesting. How that, I mean, I kind of indoctrinated myself to some degree. It was, I grew up in a beautiful English village in the 1970s, and I was, we had all the flags out at this Queen's Silver Jubilee, and I was really proud to have my commemorative silver coin, which I think I've got in a box somewhere. And the British flags were out, and we were proud to be British. And I remember, I loved all the Kenneth More films, and Reach for the Sky,
right?
All those stories of daring do. And I had a paper round, and there was a woman who I used to deliver papers for. She was in her 80s. I can't remember her name, but she was a sweet old woman and was really nice to me. But she was married to a Second World War pilot, about the Britain pilot. So I used to dig her for stories all the time. Yeah. And then for me, it was just because I wanted to fly. I wanted to escape my village.
Okay.
I looked out the window in Miss Denny's maths class when I was about 8, and I saw the RAF used to fly over the village low in Harriers, and I saw this Harrier, and I was like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And everybody laughed at me and said, you can't do that. You're short. You're from a council house. Blah blah. But I did it. And but the other indoctrination that was around, because it was the Air Force, I was like, well, I just believed in defending my country.
Yeah.
And I saw the Queen and everything as all kind of important in that whole thing. But so how much of that? It's interesting whether that's brainwashing, indoctrination, or how much of it I did myself but I truly believed in it all. I truly, really did believe it all. And going through all of this stuff over the last 10 years, the things I've found out about the royal family and who runs the world and what they actually do to the children and everything else, it's heartbreaking. But you have to get through it.
Yeah.
And I've been going through it for a decade, and some people are just brand new to some of the information.
Yes.
And I just, but the other indoctrination thing I was going to mention was there was also this religious cult around me that grew. And I think I've mentioned a few times that I was molested. My dad was more than molested, and that religious cult actually had to close down 2 years ago because of the sheer volume of sexual assault cases against them.
Okay.
Right. Thank God they finally closed down.
Yeah, finally. Yeah.
And so I saw indoctrination there, very extreme, because there were kids in that religious cult who were at school at the same time as me, and they were very different. And looking back on it, they were probably victims of child abuse, but I didn't realise that obviously at the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, I've rambled a bit there. Dave.
I mean,
what's your own story of what's your first experience of indoctrination in your life?
Finding out what actually indoctrination, in the actual meaning behind the wording, I guess that's really woken me up to a lot of things. So as I said to you about being in cadets, that was one form of indoctrination. Schooling, There's so many avenues of it, but I find the most important one is how you can self-indoctrinate yourself by your own belief system, by the own information you're putting in and then taking into yourself, swallowing it, and then that's your output. That's probably the biggest form of indoctrination. But people need to wake up to the fact that they've been abused by the indoctrination system. And if you can wrap your head around that and accept the fact that you have been indoctrinated, then your mind opens up and you start looking at other aspects. And like Charlie said, you've got to have an open mind.
Well, I've got a flashback then to the election in 1979. And because I came from a working class family, I remember being in the school playground, having arguments with the teacher, because I was like, well, if you don't vote for Labour, I'm not going to come to your class again. And, because I believed that Labour, socialism as a kid was the best thing for working people. But, I've since, a lot of my friends throughout the last 30 years are left-leaning, socialist, and I totally understand why they are. Yeah. It's because it's a great sales pitch, isn't it? It's like equality for all, blah blah blah. But when you look into it, when you look into socialism, the roots of socialism is really communism, which is Marx. And then you realize that Marx was a Satanist, and you can go and research this. If you don't believe me, go and look up Marx's satanic poems that he used to write. And then you realize that the Rothschilds and all these other mofos created these gatekeepers. They create these gatekeepers of knowledge. And so Marx was one that was basically commissioned by them to create Das Kapital, which, by the way, I've read cover to cover, read it in my economics degree, relative surplus value, for any of you that know about that kind of thing. And what a crock of shit. And that book, indoctrinated millions of people, but is also responsible. That book on its own is responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people.
Wow.
Communism has killed more people than anything else in the history of the world.
It's just not right.
You realise that you've got to go, well, you've got to ask questions. You've got to ask questions. I had when I left the Air Force, when I turned off my dad's life support machine off, I went through, everything blew up. And I used to describe it like all aspects of my personality all blew up into the air, and they all came down, and they were different when they came down.
Yeah.
So my, moral compass, things changed,
Yeah, your foundations. Yeah, your foundations of who you are, your character. Foundations of your character literally just crumble, and you've got to rebuild it.
And life seems to be a constant. I'm constantly rebuilding. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Because I welcome the change, and I welcome new ideas, and I welcome questions, and I try to keep an open mind on everything.
Yeah.
But they when I say they, we are the human race is socially engineered. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, 100%. 100%, again, by the information that we're fed. So many people will literally, just reading a magazine article can completely change the terrain of your mind. Neuro-linguistic programming.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know, let's just stick with a magazine article. I can't really think of a subject, but something that plays on your emotional heartstrings, and then that, of course, in turn is going to have an effect on what you output. So you could be feeling completely calm 1 minute, you read that article, really emotional and upset, something else comes along that triggers that feeling, and then it's just a projection. And that's just someone's just played with the terrain of your mind just by putting something.
Now, aren't we living during this pandemic? Aren't we living in the most incredible example of how divided indoctrination has made people? So, one of my friends on Facebook the other week put up a post going, well, this pandemic, this virus is really, really serious. And I can't believe how many people are saying, wake up sheep, or what's wrong with these people? It's like they've read the Bible and they've become all religious and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting, because he started the comment with, this virus is really terrible. Right. So everything after that, as far as I was concerned, was completely invalid.
Yeah.
Because it hasn't done any research into what's going on. No. And I think if you, the macro view for this, for me, is about once you understand that there is a network of 10,000 deep underground bases and cities and tunnels under the Atlantic with 3,000 mile per hour maglev trains, with 8 million children minimum go missing per year to feed this giant, the biggest industry on earth is this massive child trafficking network that Charlie Freak said, and I think I agree with him, as if you think about the numbers, has taken the souls of 1 billion children since World War II. When you understand that is a real thing, and then you understand, well, they've had to hide that from under, literally they've done this under our noses, right? So that, I mean, then they've had to control the media. They've had to control the education system. They've even controlled the true history of the earth. I don't know if you ever watched any Michael Tellinger videos.
Only the stuff that he's done with Charlie Ward, but I have seen some other stuff that's been hair-raising. So that I can't remember what it's called now. And out in America, they thought it was a mountain, but it turns out to be a tree.
Yeah, I mean, I first came across that idea in about 2014, and I put it up on Facebook, and everybody just laughed at me. I put it up again the other day, and people laughed at me again. But it is a tree.
Yeah, basically. You can tell it's a bloody tree by looking at it.
It's obviously a tree, right? And it's not the only one. There's one, South Africa, there's one in Cape Town,
Okay, yeah.
And then you think, well, how did that get cut so perfectly straight across the top?
Yeah.
If you accept that it's a tree, how big must have that machinery been? What was that technology? What? But, you've looked into Michael Tellinger's stuff. He talks about Adam's calendar in South Africa, which is like the oldest working, fully functioning stone circle calendar in the world. But he found the footprints of, I think it's 2 cities that have a bigger footprint than London and have tons of evidence of advanced technology there.
Right.
And cloning and gold mining and stones that ring like bells, which you can use to levitate things, because that's a scientific fact.
Yeah.
So when you start realizing that everything's a lie and it's got all these gatekeepers, you've got Marx with the communism, you've got Einstein with his bullshit theory of relativity, you've got Stephen Hawking with his bullshit, and I'm glad that he's been found pictures of him at Epstein's Island. I mean, how the man lived as long as he lived, he was literally a mouthpiece, a puppet.
But they all are, aren't they?
Yeah, but they could literally get him to say anything.
Yeah.
And then they bring out a book, Brief History of Time, more bullshit. And literally nobody has a fucking clue.
No.
And I think that's the issue right now, is like this seeking truth is coming from the fact that a lot of people are going, oh my God, I've got to rebuild all of my thoughts from scratch.
You've got to start from scratch. You've got to literally have a blank canvas, have your mind open. And if your mind's closed and you're going down one narrative, you're going to miss all the other stuff that's happening. Like of all the awoken people, shall we say, who are, they're going, what's RV, what's QFS? And I'm thinking, you're supposed to be awoke. Like, how have you not seen this? It's right in front of your face. So many people talking about it.
Well, I mean, this brings up an interesting point, which is to do with how gentle we have to be with people as they're waking up, because it is actually a traumatic process, right? Which causes a huge amount of stress, anxiety, and depression. I've seen people go through the depression and then bounce back and cling onto the side of the swimming pool because they can't cope with it. Right. And they feel like they're drowning, so they have to come back. But the other reason why I was talking about the massive satanic paedophile network is that as a human race, like the paedophile with the child, we have been groomed. And the grooming is extremely powerful, right?
And with that, as you've said it, I'm going to read out what I read on Charlie's show.
Right.
So, Indoctrination. Teach children critical thinking skills and you can persuade them to believe whatever you can substantiate, so facts. And then you've got the disgusting side of it, which is what's happened to every single one of us over decades, is to seduce and terrorize children with fantasies, punish their dissent, and reward their submission, and you can groom them to believe whatever you like. And that is what's happened to the entire human race. Unless you actually know what's going on, you're a victim to it. And it's only the critical thinkers that are now going, hold on, this ain't right. Something's not right here.
You know, something I've noticed about, as you said, the critical thinkers, all the ones that I seem to have come across seem to have gone through some kind of trauma.
Yes. I'm glad you said that.
I'll just describe my own trauma. You've definitely been through trauma. I believe, from what you've said
Yeah.
before.
No, I agree with that. So people that have been through trauma, and also people that live in less civilized countries than our own, so more war-torn countries, countries that have had more political issues and wars.
I'm not sure about less civilized, because I find the UK.
Yeah, no, they're probably more civilized. No, I agree with that. I agree. Yeah, they're definitely a lot more friendlier, that's for sure. But no, they seem to be a lot more awake to and more receptive to the fact that there's so much corruption and bullshit going on.
Well, it's funny you say that. I literally got a message 20 minutes ago from somebody I know in Marrakesh.
Okay.
Because I lived there for 4 years, and she was saying that she said even the taxi drivers are awake to what's going on, and and you know, when I lived in Morocco, it's a much poorer country than Europe, but people are happy. People are happy, right? And they're connected, and they look after each other. You know, if you want to build a house there, everybody chips in and helps you do it. And everybody knows everybody's name, and everybody's, you know, food. You can live on £1 a day there with fresh food, although that has been corrupted by Monsanto, and there's a lot of genetically modified bullshit going in. But you know, you can go and get your meat, and you know, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But she's saying that they're you know, and I found when I was living there that there was a lot more wokeness, if you like. And they all knew that the police are corrupt and the government's corrupt and everything else, but they just, you know, they looked after each other. And it was very much, it's a bit like being in Ireland. That, you know, if you're driving a car on the road in Morocco and somebody flashes you, they're basically saying the police are down there, watch out. And
right, so, what we used to kind of do back in the day, get the old thumbs down out the lorry window. Yeah.
But of course, in Morocco, they've got Islam, which is extreme indoctrination, and I don't mean that as an anti-Islamic thing at all. You know, I have deep respect for anybody's religious beliefs, but you know, religion's obviously the most powerful form of indoctrination ever.
It was probably the first form, I would say, the first form of humanity's form of indoctrination.
And have you got what are your experiences? Have you got any experiences of being indoctrinated into religion or being groomed or anything like that in your own life, David?
So only with religion, I remember going to church with my mum. We used to go to church every Sunday, just a local one. And I think it must have been a blessing they done. I was called up to the front, and the priest has done the old blessing on my forehead. When I was a kid, I was like, what the fuck is he putting on my head? So I just wiped the water off and just kind of sat back down. So even as a kid, to me, religion had no substantial evidence for me to kind of cling on to it. So I'd always kind of dismissed it in a sense. And as I've grown older and my spiritual side's grown, I believe in a creator. So in my video yesterday, I said to Charlie about you are your own God. What I meant by that is you're a God of your reality here and now. So in the present moment, because you control what happens to you. God is a creator. Obviously, there's a creator of what we live in, what we see. Yeah, basically everything.
Yeah, look around you. How can there not be?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you'd have to be seriously just...
I used to be an atheist. I was an atheist for about 20 years.
I guess that's what you could call me. I've got what people would see on my forearm is an inverted crucifix, but I see it as a crucifix.
Yeah, from your perspective, it's
Yeah, but I was kind of showing to the world, like, this is my view on Christianity, like, flip it on its head. It's complete nonsense. But not to insult anyone, because actually Christianity is one of the, when you look at the values, it's a better one, shall we say.
Did you know at the time that inverted cross is a satanic symbol?
Yes. Yeah, that's why I got it done.
Is it?
This was during my dark phase, when I was like, okay, well, if God's going to take all my loved ones away from me, then he's not that much of a nice guy, is he? So, what's funny, it was my mum that actually told me about this satanic Bible. She got talking to a security guard at work, and he was into it, so she got me the book. Very interesting, like, how I kind of fell into it. But I read the book, and it weren't so much the dark side of it. There had some very interesting stuff in there. Like, they talk about psychic vampires, so people that feed off your emotional energy. So, prime example, someone comes to your birthday party, you don't go to theirs, they get the arsehole about it. That's a psychic vampire. Okay, because they want your emotional energy. They just want to take from you all the time. And I think that's actually a really valid, good point.
Well, I think every doctrine has good points in, otherwise it wouldn't catch on with anybody, would it?
Yeah, exactly. It's got to have something to reel you in, hasn't it? Basically. But yeah, I mean, I went into it as a follower. I weren't meeting up with groups or anything. I just read the book, did a bit of research, and then just moved on with my life. And now I'm fully in the light, and that's all I want to give to people, more and more light.
But I think I've got a few memories that pop up. I was friends with a film director who got nominated for an Oscar, and he was very Luciferian. And he said, "I'm Luciferian." I was like, "What the fuck does that mean?" And then you look into it, and one of the things that is really interesting about how it's all divide and conquer.
Of course.
There's one creator, there's one truth, that's it, and we are aspects of that creation, and we choose to come incarnate at this time to go through the trials and tribulations in order for our souls to advance and our consciousness to raise. That's basically the way I understand it.
I agree with that, totally agree with that.
Yeah, so that's the adventure in a meat suit. That's why I'm starting the channel, because that's what it is.
I like your analogy there, calling it a meat suit, because it's exactly what it is. It's just it's a vessel for us to travel in.
Yeah, well, I felt that since I was a kid. I always felt like I was driving a car, and I always looked at humans like out the side of my, like, gee, what?
Aren't they strange creatures? Why do they do that? Same. I call it cuckoo, I guess, but yeah, often I've sort of thought, I'm not from here. Why do I talk about humans like they're, I don't know,
like a third party? That's the way I.
Yeah. Good way of putting it. Yeah, third party. Yeah.
Like you're observing.
It's strange, but then I come across this thing about star seeds, and I started looking into geometry recently.
What, sacred geometry?
Yes, as above, so below.
Have you come across Nassim Harriman?
No.
You should look up the film Thrive. It's on thrivemovement.com.
Okay.
It was made by Foster Gamble and his wife about 10 years ago. It's a phenomenal film, and Nassim Harriman and sacred geometry is very much part of that.
Right.
Tesla understood the sacred geometry extremely well.
Yeah.
So sorry, I'm just like
no. By all means, but yeah, sacred geometry is very important to humans. Very, very important to humans and nature. You've only got to look at nature and then look at yourself, and you can see it. A lightning bolt.
You can see the Fibonacci sequence all through you. If you know Da Vinci's drawing of the guy with his arms out, that's all Fibonacci sequence. And, harmonic. We were talking earlier about 432 frequency, harmonic frequencies and stuff.
Yeah, harmonic resonance, or I think that's the best way of putting it. Marina Jacobi's got a really good way of describing it. It's very in depth, so prepare yourself for that one. But no, it's sort of a high level of consciousness, how geometry plays into the human body and nature, how we're all intertwined. Even the brickwork outside is intertwined into us.
Yeah, because everything has a consciousness. Yeah,
it's a part of your reality, and that's how you
realise that. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's such a powerful thing to embrace that knowledge, and we're only scratching the surface of it. And this is what's being suppressed. This is the archaic knowledge that's being suppressed from us.
Absolutely.
High level consciousness.
Absolutely. I mean, this is why they demonized cannabis. This is why they demonized peyote and ayahuasca and stuff like that, because the ancient connection that we have to the spiritual realm through the use of these plants, which are not there by accident.
No.
You know, I did a peyote ceremony with with a Mexican chief in a wigwam on a ley line in Glastonbury, and I remember driving there thinking, what am I? I was there in my Jaguar, right, and my big watch and all my big ego shit, and I was like, and I was pulled there, you know, and I drove into this field going, what the fuck am I doing here with all these hippies? What am I doing? And and I sat in this tent, and they were, God, it was the most beautiful thing I'd ever experienced. It was just amazing. And in the morning, because it starts about 8 in the evening and finishes about 6 in the morning, and the sunlight comes through and just hits him on the. It's so beautiful, the ceremonies. And peyote, for anybody that doesn't know, is a flower and a cactus from North America, which Native Americans have been using for tens of thousands of years as a ceremony to connect with nature.
Yeah,
and since that day, I'm a tree hugger. You know, I feel the tree. I go in the forest as often as I can. I feel the tree. If I'm feeling stressed, I just go for a walk in the forest.
Yeah, yeah.
And I take CBD.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I take CBD every day, and it changed my life in terms of. So the reason I'm talking about that is just trying to get to the sort of anybody watching this, that we started talking about indoctrination. There's lots of different elements of that, and I think everybody can relate to that. How that relates to what's going on now in the world is super interesting, because this is, as Q calls it, the Great Awakening, right?
Yeah.
And we're seeing it everywhere. And we're seeing the trauma of that already. You know, there's been spats online this week with some of the people we know. So this trauma is going to be so big because people's everything they believed about the world is about to get turned on its head. Would you agree with that?
Massively. And this is where everyone needs to literally just pull that parachute cord now, because you're at that falling point where that parachute cord needs to just eject. And you've just got to sail your way down now beautifully.
You just reminded me, I did one parachute jump with the paras when I was 19, and I fell out of the plane.
That's probably the bloody best way, though, isn't it?
Well, you spent 3 days training how to push yourself out. And he checked the wire, because it was a static line, turned around, and I'd gone, and my legs were doing this. But it feels like that, you know, it feels like that now, you know.
It does, yeah. You're free
then suddenly, total peace.
Yeah. And that is when you pull the parachute and you just softly land. Yeah, I'd love to do a parachute jump, but I'm petrified of heights.
Well, that's why you got to do it. I'm a pilot, and I don't like heights.
Okay, yeah.
I hate being on a tall building. Hate it. When they've got a reference, I hate it. It freaks me out. Yeah. But
do you get
my plane.
Do you get the not clammy hands? Your hands, literally, your whole body goes kind of cold.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I
started getting anxiety when I was about 30 years old. I was having cold sweats, dreaming about being in a passenger plane.
Oh,
what's going on here?
It's weird, isn't it? It just all of a sudden just pops up. I don't know whether that's just an evolution point in our consciousness, whether we have to go through that phase to raise our own self-awareness, to raise up those levels.
Well, I think you're probably right. But one thing else that comes to mind is that, let's say, you know, we're talking about stuff here, interesting conversations. I know that you're a truth seeker, I'm a truth seeker, whatever you want to call us.
Yeah.
It seems to me that the people that don't want to look at the truth see us as the indoctrinated ones, which I find really funny, because I think it's the opposite, right? So the Facebook comment I mentioned earlier with my friend saying, oh, it's like they've all got religion. I mean, another friend of mine in London not long ago, he said, oh, you just sound like you're just a religious nutter now. And I'm like, well, you know, I've put in maybe 30,000 hours of research over 20 years, at least. Yeah. At least. And I've taken information from thousands of sources.
Yeah.
You know, and then I've had to go through this massive breakdown myself again, and then again, and you know, and I was suicidal a couple of years ago, and I got given the choice by God, and angels appeared, and somehow I got through it. And here I am now, literally not giving a fuck what anybody thinks about me.
Yeah, that's the best way to be. I don't know whether this will come up on the camera or not.
Let's have a look.
Oh, from
I like that.
About 15 years, I think that's not that long.
It's a bit aggressive for me, but you know, it's your power.
Yeah, because I stupidly used to dress and talk and act the way to fit into certain genres of groups, shall we say. And I've got friends in all different types of areas, different walks of life. And I thought, you know what, I've had enough of trying to pretend to be something I'm not. So bollocks, fuck what people think. I'm going to be me. And if you don't like it, there's billions of others out there. Jog on, you know? Life's too short to really care.
Yeah, I went, you know, you go through certain things. I think I was talking on a video this morning about, I had an online hate campaign which was full of lies about me, and this guy really went for me. He was, because I won't go into why, but and it was all lies, and it was all online. I was like, what the fuck? And he was emailing all my friends, telling them lies, and I lost a few people. They weren't really friends, obviously, but you got, and this takes me back actually to David Icke. So I thought obviously everybody took the piss out of Icke when he was on the Wogan show years ago and everything else, but after 9/11 happened, and I lost a friend in 9/11, I started reading his books, and one of the first books I read was Truth Vibrations. Have you ever read that?
No, I've not read any of his stuff yet. No.
I think it was written in 1998, and Truth Vibrations, he was talking about this time.
Okay.
So Icke talks about the fact that he went to Peru, he got off a bus, he went to a hill, and then he stood there for 45 minutes, had a download of information, and then it said when the rain comes, it was a totally blue sky, and it'll be over. The rain came. He went back down. He went back to England. He ended up going on the Wogan show, and he said, "I am the Godhead." And everybody just laughed at him. Wogan took the piss out of him, and he told it's a couple of things. Firstly, he says that, and I'm very grateful to David Icke, by the way. I'm confused about why he's not talking about Q, but I'm very grateful to all the work that he's done over the last 20 years. And anybody that slags him off has never read one of his books.
I don't think they really listened to him and had their mind open enough.
Well, this computer right now is sat on Trigger, one of his books, because it's that big. But Icke talks about two things. One is he talks about the fact that he had to get to the point where he was given information, downloaded information, which I totally believe because I've had the same experiences. Yeah. He had to get rid of giving a shit what anybody thought about him. So he had to be publicly humiliated to the point where he didn't care anymore what anybody thought. And that was
it's exactly what I said yesterday about ego. If you can drop ego, then you don't respond to people attacking you. You don't respond to the trolls. You don't respond to the stupid negative comments. If you can literally just drop ego, because the moment someone attacks you, it's your ego that's responding.
Yeah.
It's not anything else. It's literally just the I inside of you just responding to what's happening on the outside. And if people can literally just go, do you know what, I'm going to take a step back, become the observer, because happenings come and go. You just the observer's there forever, always observing. Just like our consciousness is there forever, as David Icke says. I can't remember the exact way he put it, but basically consciousness is forever. Even when our body dies, consciousness will always carry on. So always speak your truth and don't fear.
And it's a very liberating thing if you can get to that point. I feel like I'm getting there, and I called this Adventures in the Meat Suit because I'm a human being and I screw up and my ego still pops up and I'm fighting it all the time, Yeah. But it does still rear its head. I apologise to everybody for that, but I'm trying to learn. But in Truth Vibrations, he also talks about this specific time that truth is the only thing that can exist. It's like I imagine it like an apple tree being shook.
Right.
All the apples have to fall out, and the only thing that's left is truth.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like to me. There's lots and lots. I've had to face my own personal truths, face up to my own failings, get through those, and then try to stand up and say, okay, right, I want to find the truth. I'm going to tell you what I know, and I'm going to speak to people like you to find out more. That's it. That's what it's about.
Well, yeah, truth and love, and that's the direction we should be heading in. So people attacking each other, it's not going to benefit the situation in any form or sense. The only people we need to be attacking is the sick bastards in control that are taking our liberty and freedom away, and they've done that for generations. Like, people need to get angry, and they need to get angry in the right direction. And it's not at your fellow friend or your fellow man. That's all they're doing is just spreading a truthful message and trying to get their point out there.
Well, they've convinced the human race that the human race is the one responsible for the planet being in a state, for poverty. It's not us, it's them. And, they're very, very deceptive and very powerful. They have been. Do you think that, let's just keep it simplistic. This is good versus evil. This is Revelations. If you want to go and read that book in the Bible, I think this is what's happening. It's not about left and right anymore. It's not about Republican, Democrat, blah, blah, blah. It's about good versus evil, 100%.
Yeah.
I feel it. We know. Do you think the good guys are going to win? Are already winning? How do you feel about where we're at with that?
It's a really difficult one to say. If you go by visual audio, and you're stupid enough to turn the TV on, then you're going to think the bad guys are winning. If you follow your heart, follow your intuition, and as Charlie says, your moral compass is right, I think the answers are there in front of you. I think we are heading in the right direction. It's just a matter of time and patience. And there has to be a critical mass turning point as well. Because if all the truth suddenly rushed out now, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be devastated. I accidentally red-pilled a friend I was talking to last night. I mentioned,
yeah. Did you slip him a Mickey?
So we're talking about Mickey. It was actually about Disney. She was saying like, no, not Disney. And I was like, Disney's one of the worst for it.
Oh God, it's awful.
And all I said was a symbology about, it's the one that the Walls logo.
The paedophile logo, yeah.
Yeah. And it was in Navigator, which is one of my favourite childhood films.
Yeah, it's on the silver things behind in the ship, isn't it?
Yeah. So I mean, when I found this out, I was affected by it. It was one of my childhood favourite films. But my mind's that open, I'm not devastated. It's literally just washed off me. Like, okay, yeah, I can accept that.
I'm in a similar position. I'm going to sit with my son and say, right, what movies should we watch tonight? And I'm like, well, I can't watch De Niro anymore. I don't want to watch Tom Hanks. And they've all gone. And it's like, well, we've got to let go of all of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
We ended up watching Braveheart with Mel Gibson because Mel Gibson came out and talked about this stuff. And I think, then I watched Braveheart and I'm like, wow, that's a problem movie. But we've got to let go of all of it. It's all got to go.
All of it. All the music. Well, a lot of music. There's certain artists that have been trying to get a message out for a long, long time. Talk about 432 hertz, actually. So if anyone wants to go and check this out, go into Spotify, search 432 hertz and playlist. And the number one artist you're going to see in there is Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Ah, interesting.
Yeah, on the reggae side of stuff. And he's been banging that out for years and years and years and years, raising people's vibrations. And
I mean, he died of cancer of the toe, didn't he, when he was living in London?
Yeah, apparently.
So he must have been wiped out, basically.
I think he went into hiding. He was another one that knew too much. Probably was told, be quiet or we're going to do the off of you. So he thought, well, I'll go into hiding then.
It's interesting. Also, for David Icke fans, Gareth Icke, his son, he records in 432. His music, I've seen him perform at Wembley and met him a couple of times. So there's people out there that are aware of this and are doing it, which is fantastic. And so what I think we're leading to is this is all about personal responsibility now and getting through the indoctrination being as it leaves your body it's like I see it as a bit like Venom in Spider-Man, that suit that's just like you can't take the bloody thing off, right? It comes off. Yeah. And it's a bit like taking off a plaster, right? I think there's going to be quite a big sharp shot there. I think this has to be. You can't just
there's going to be some bleeding after.
Can't keep peeling it off slowly. And this year, 2020, has been about, you say when the truth's out. Well, the truth is already out there.
Yeah.
It's just there if you want to find it. If you start at the right frequency, you find the truth. Because there is only one frequency for truth, right? Which is probably 432.
Yeah, yes. Well, apparently it's the God consciousness frequency. So,
have you looked at cymatics ever?
No, I'm kind of just bordering on that, kind of going down into that not that rabbit hole, but that education side of stuff. Because one thing
so it's basically, if you put like iron filings on a piece of paper and you play certain frequencies, it forms these shapes.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, well, Egyptian temples, they have frequency chambers.
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's obviously pretty much a healing chamber, isn't it?
Well, but I've got some orgonite here somewhere. Have you heard of orgonite?
Orgonite. Is that a crystal?
No, it's there was a guy called Wilhelm Reich, who's I think was an Austrian, possibly a Nazi, but whatever. But he discovered that if you he was building cages for people to sit inside, and the cages were made out of sheep's wool, metal, sheep's wool, metal, sheep's wool, metal.
Okay.
And he just basically, he didn't call it orgonite, but basically he discovered that your energy field is here, and if you put it near that organic and metal mix, effectively what happens is that this material reharmonizes your frequency. Right.
Okay. Interesting.
Right? So I've got an orgonite pyramid here somewhere. I can't see it right now. I think it might be in my bag, but so he was curing people of all sorts of, because illness is disease is dis-ease, right? Which is basically your frequency is misaligned, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she should be that alignment.
If you realign your frequency with 432, orgonite, even oils carry frequency, CBD carries that frequency. All of these things harmonize you. So this is about taking sovereignty over yourself. And if anybody out there watching this is like feeling anxious or stressed, or I mean, somebody said on Facebook yesterday, I can't cope with anymore. I just want to turn off.
Yeah.
Put the telly on. Don't put the fucking telly on.
No.
But go meditate and just get yourself centered again, because this is like being. We are in a storm, and I mean, this is World War III, but we're sat at our kitchen tables, right? It's
crazy, isn't it? It's absolutely crazy, but it is a war of. It's a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle with yourself and the higher forces at work. And every battle starts at home.
Inside, yeah.
It does. Like those poor bastards that were 16, 17 years old that went off to fight for our freedom, our grandparents. Mm-hmm. They had a choice when they left those boats. They had their spiritual choice then, and we've got ours now. People have got to speak up. I mean, yeah, we set our kitchen tables in our rooms, whatever, but you've got voice. Use it. It's the most powerful weapon in the world.
Well, I've got an interesting question here, because when I do believe that what you just said is 100% right, and then I find myself getting cross, indignant, or getting involved in the fights.
Yeah.
And then I get messages from some of my spiritual healing friends, and they say, Mark, you've got yourself trapped into the matrix again. Stop it. You've got to keep raising your consciousness through raising up to love and those frequencies. But it is extremely difficult sometimes when you see. I think I made a video the other week that one of the people in the group, his sister committed suicide because. It was just heartbreaking, because it was so unnecessary, because she was on the way, because people were attacking her.
Yeah, just because people aren't using their, excuse my French here, they're not using their fucking brains. And I say that with anger, because I find it really upsetting that human society is turning against itself and not looking at the bigger picture. We're under attack. Attack the people that are attacking us. Don't attack your fellow man, because you're weak.
You can't see them. It's a spell.
Yeah, I love that. Right. So while you've said that word, spelling, God, the English language is such a complex thing. As I said to Charlie, I've got an education of a 14-year-old. And for me to pick up on this kind of really does say something. So the word spelling, so we can look at that as spelling the word, however you spell a word. And then you can look at the magical side of stuff. So spelling. And one of the things that came up about the deep state is how they basically tell us what they're going to do beforehand. So stuff like films and stuff like that. You come out of a cinema, you go, oh, that was such a great film, wasn't it? You tell all your mates. It's a form of consent. You've basically been put under a spell, and the energy you're giving off, you're feeding that. And so why all the people keep mentioning deep state, why you keep posting stuff about pedophiles and all the other crap that's going on, you're giving it power. You're giving that spell power. What we need to be doing is what we're doing, talking about raising consciousness, raising your own self-awareness, spreading.
I find that there's loads of things you've said there that trigger things in me, not in a bad way. 100%, they know magic is real and works, right? Yeah. And spells are part of it. The law of karma is real. The law of attraction is real. I've proven this, and I'll talk about it in more videos in the future. I've looked into magic to I'm actually very close to a castle down the road, which is in the middle of a lake, where W.B. Yeats and Aleister Crowley used to cast spells as members of the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Okay. This is Ireland. This is a land of there's magic circles everywhere. There's portal tombs everywhere. That's why I think the whole country has been subjugated over such a long period of time, because they just wanted to get rid of. They're rewriting the magical history of the place. And I've actually got a book up here by a guy called Thomas Sheridan, who lives down the road from here, called Sorcery. I'm very interested in that, and I'm telling people, anybody watching this should go and research magic, because magic is 100% real. And all magic is intention, because we create the universe with our intentions and thoughts. This is why the law of attraction works, because if you vibrate at a frequency, you're manifesting something, you're bringing it towards you. The problem we've got is that we think we're going towards it, but it's the other way around. And these guys with their secret societies and their magic bollocks, they understand this 100%, which is why they've
cut all the ties,
castrated us from our birthright of knowledge.
Yeah.
And you've got indigenous tribes all over the world that know this, but they haven't got a voice.
No.
Because these motherfuckers are there with their massive media machines and their war machines and their pharmaceutical poisons, and fuck them. I'm fucking pissed off with them beyond belief. But I can't do that. I've got to meditate again. Got to meditate.
That's it. Just got to keep saying.
I'm into eye consciousness now. I'm sorry. I got locked into the matrix there.
No, but you've hit the nail on the head there, because that's the ego inside. That was the I being attacked by what's going on. That's everything the deep state are doing to us. That the I inside of you just lashed out. So that's a form of ego in a sense. Not that it's bad, because it's perfectly natural to lash out at something disgusting like that. I don't know. It's just there's so many avenues, isn't there?
Well, this is the thing. How I've said that I'm indignant against paedophiles, and I know what these things have been doing to children, right? How do you face something that vastly evil and horrible without getting cross? How do you do it? How do you raise your consciousness at the same time as getting rid of this crap? How do you do that?
Do you know what? The part of me wants to say, I don't want to forgive him. I don't want to let that go. But that's the part what we have to do. It's, as Jesus said, you've got to turn the other cheek. We know that Trump is taking them out. We know that the military's in action. The Pentagon Paedophile Task Force, we know that they're in action. We know they're taking them out.
But what do you say to people who say, show me the proof of it? Because it's very, very difficult to prove.
To be honest, I'll say people that say, show me the proof of it, I'll say you're quite sick in the head, that you want to see something like that. Why can't you just look at, I mean, there is proof out there. There's enough proof out there. There's enough snapshots of, was it New York Park City? Central Park. Yeah, we've got the tents, and Gene Deco's doing his talk over. Look, there's videos out there. There's enough evidence. And if that ain't enough to feed your taste buds to kind of like want to see that, and you want to go any further, I think that's just wrong. Like, Podesta's artwork is fucking far enough.
Oh, geez.
You know, that's far enough. Why the bloody hell do you want to see that in a human form? Seriously, you got to look at your moral compass again and go, that's not right. I shouldn't want to look at that. I want to be looking at what can help people move forward, move away from that.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. I mean, it seems that people won't believe it unless it's on the BBC or CNN or in the national newspaper, which is just nuts. And the other thing is cognitive dissonance, right?
Yeah, that's where I think we're at. I think that's exactly where a lot of people are at. There's so much information, misinformation as well, that people have overloaded themselves. They've actually made themselves cognitively dissonant from everything that's going on. And this is why they're missing so many other aspects. And I'm trying to help people raise their self-awareness, because if you can raise your self-awareness, live in the present moment, you become of what's actually going on around you, because you haven't gone outside of it. If you think of 3 circles, you're in your circle, that's your present moment. You've got the outer circle, that's your input, and you've got your outer circle, and that's just going over the line. Like, you're just going to live in a clouded mind. You're back to fearful thinking. And you know what it's like when you start getting emotional about a subject, you instantly cloud your mind because you've got an attachment to it. And this is where you've got to keep an open mind, almost allow those emotional attachments to be pushed to the side a little bit, compartmentalise. That's a good one.
Well, this is Taoism, basically.
Yeah.
So if people want to connect with you or learn more from you, how do they do it?
Just go to my channel on YouTube. So Spiritual Warrior of the Many. Bit of a naff name, but I can really.
Mine's called Mark Atwood Show. You couldn't get any naffer than that.
Of the meat suit, I like that. That's good.
Oh, I got slagged off for that. I got a few people saying, "Oh, yeah," and I was like, "Oh, whatever. It is what it is." I'll put a link to that below. Is there any other way that you...
Twitter at Mony Bollocks. So you can find me on
Twitter.
I
love being British. Only we talk like this.
Yeah. We like Charlie said after our chat yesterday. It's got to be raw and authentic. That's how I am. I am raw and authentic.
You've got to be true to who you are, man. Yeah.
Yeah. But this is it. Yeah. I'm very true to who I am. I accept who I am. So I mean that's it. Yeah. So at Money Bollocks on Twitter, on Parler, it is at David G 777, and then YouTube Spiritual Warrior of the Many.
Yeah, well, send me the actual links. I'll put them in the description of the video. Okay, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Yeah, I'm sure we'll catch up again soon and be chatting on WhatsApp anyway. So thanks a lot, David.
Yeah, God bless you, mate. Thank you.
Take care.
Yeah, mate. You too. It's like the news reporters at the end tapping the paper. Have they finished yet?
I've got to edit the bloody video. Come on, it won't work. I'll call you back in a minute.